Use your mic.
Commissioners Taylor? Here. Long?
Here.
Powell? Here. Smith Charles?
Present.
Spiz?
Present.
Markham?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, so we can get started. And before we get into the meat of our afternoon, I'm going to ask Cheryl Johnson to explain what she handed out to all of us just now.
Good afternoon. I am Cheryl Johnson, the Deputy CFO for Oakland County. Yesterday, we had a question about what some of the departments do and what exactly their tasks are. So I thought it would be a great time to hand out, this is what we call the PAFR. It's the Popular Annual Financial Report. And what this is it's our award-winning annual report that kind of accompanies our ACFR. Only this has got pictures and descriptions of what the departments do and what things they do in the community. There's like tidbits on the side. It's a very small report, but this will answer some of the questions. For example, if you're looking at public safety, which is on page 14, you'll see that it talks about law enforcement, incarceration, community law enforcement support, corrections programs, emergency management and homeland security, animal control, and the sheriff's office for the Comfort Canines. So this gives a little blurb about what it is. I wanted to just pass this out so everyone saw it. I'll make sure that all of the commissioners have it. I will be taking forward the recommendation to putting something in the budget book that does also describe all of the areas and basically what they do, but this is also a good place to start and something that we already do.
Thank you. All right. So we're going to go ahead and move into our budget hearings, starting with item 12A, which is the Board of Commissioners budget hearing. So Michael's going to tell us where we spend all our money.
Please note he wore a jacket today just for us.
I did, yes.
And
Thank
I want to
you.
remind everybody that you need to speak directly into your microphone.
All right. So thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Finance Committee members, for indulging me as your Chief of Staff in your budget, I would say, your departmental budget. But I would say I want to throw like a little curveball to fiscal and HR right now and say that we're going to be requesting another $1 million for our personnel costs. But I think that, yeah, look, they already dropped their house.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, that's a crickets in the audience there. But so. Yeah, exactly. So as we all know, it's kind of difficult to relay what the actual duties are of a Board of Commissioners at a county level. I think a lot of the public knows and sees in the news, how our federal government works, how our state government works, and not a lot related to how county government works. And so the legislative branch of the county government is a key role in getting out a lot of funding that not only the county citizens tie into with their property taxes, but then also pass through grants and things of that nature from the federal government and the state government. So it's a vital role in really getting services to residents. And this budget in particular represents all those support services for the legislative branch of government. It also provides some key essential oversight and fiscal accountability, but then it also sets the legislative direction that Oakland County has as probably the best county in the state of Michigan. This budget also reflects the responsibilities and the continued evolution of the board's operational excellence. So I'm going to just give you some highlights from this past year that we've had with some key staffing changes that reflect our ongoing commitment to high performance. But then it also reestablishes or even works off of those values that are driven within our team. So as you've just heard from somebody who had presented to the Finance Committee, a former Chief of Staff, but then also we had a retiring Chief of Staff that's now down in Washington, not too far from the NACO offices that we can rely on to help us do some work there as well, and just reaching out to people at the NACO offices if we so need it. She had mentioned that to me in passing as she was leaving last year, Patty Dibbs. So what you'll find is that our previous chief of staff have continued a foundational core of culture that I hope that I am continuing with this budget and with our staff and just helping that to be a part of it. I know you're looking at the revenues and departments and actuals, and I'll kind of go through this. I know you guys see all these bar graphs and everything like that. I'll field questions on those later, but I really wanted to get more towards what some of our goals are, what some of our culture is, and how we as a staff are helping you. So again, first off is that legacy of strong leadership with our chief of staff, building a culture of transparency, accountability, and strategic alignment, but then also providing our team with some growth pathways and ensuring staff have the tools and support to survive, essentially to help you guys do your job as commissioners. Elevating and hiring of exceptional supervisors and staff has been one of the main goals this past year for fiscal year 25 and 24. We've made some intentional decisions on promotion and onboarding talented supervisors and staff that uphold our positive culture and our positive internal culture. So we hope that we have proven to you, not only as the Finance Committee, that these individuals have set the performance measures high with that mindset that we are including in our culture, but then also reinforces that our work environment is built on trust, initiative, and shared success. As some of you may or may not know, and this is maybe more for the YouTube audience and the residents of Oakland County, our Board of Commissioners staff is structured with it's composed of 3 units that we work off of. One is our operational unit, the other is our policy analysts, and then finally our communication staff. We embrace a musketeer mentality is what I presented last year with a one for all for one. And I believe that this unity has allowed us to deliver consistent, high-quality service to all commissioners while responding nimbly to evolving priorities. So quickly, and I think we can go, let me just, so that would relate to this personnel positions that we have here. With the adopted budget, we have 35, which includes the commissioners, 16 staff with 1 vacant. And that's there just in case, obviously, the board creates any more ad hoc committees or special committees that would require some additional staff support there. Moving backwards to the revenue and budget. So then just kind of key into our goals and strategies with this budget and moving forward. One is to streamline our processes and enhance our support services. As you have seen or witnessed, our agenda management system, Civic Clerk, Civic Plus, we will continue to work with our vendor to refine those, customize the workflows, and increase our user proficiency. I think that's key, not only with you guys in the educational aspect with the commissioners, is that with our vendor and that contract, is that we can easily guide you through working through that agenda management system and not having no hiccups there. In fact, I know Commissioner Smith-Charles likes to use certain features that allow for the commissioners to raise their hands, essentially, to get noticed in the committees. We also have our Documents on Demand system, which offers transparency and easy access to legislative documents. I think you'll see in a little bit here that we highlighted that in one of our communication staff's videos that we have for you. Then not too far behind that and always on our mind is our transition to the new building. It presents an opportunity that we can try to optimize some workflows, but then it also, we will hope to further integrate our digital tools that we have. So I'm hoping that'll be a part of that enhanced support services. Number 2 goal is to expand transparency in public education. We've been working hard and diligently with our communication staff to do some website enhancements. We're continually evaluating the board portal and the navigation to improve public access to those records, the meetings, and then the commissioner information. And I think that if anybody has noticed on our website is that we've made some vast improvements, I think, with our communications team to just make sure that it's easy access to that for the public. I know that I have gone to various other governmental entities, whether it be counties, cities, or even the state's website. And I have to say that our team does an amazing job, and that within a couple of clicks, you can get to where you want to go. Whereas, it's really an involved effort if you go to other governments to find information that you're looking for. So the other part is our YouTube and our streaming. I know there's a question of what are you looking to evaluate and look to make some cost-cutting measures. Well, we're continuing evaluating all that stuff. YouTube and streaming is a key presence there that we're always looking to evaluate and see what kind of real-time public access is there. Obviously, we want to keep the transparency, but if nobody's using it, we still have the recording, but move to more of a recorded feature. But real time is still there, and we're still using it, but we're evaluating it all the time. We're also looking at extending our digital presence, whatever outlets that we want to use, and finding out how we can do some real time investment there with getting information out to the public. Our outreach and our communication tools, I think what you guys have noticed as commissioners over the last year is that we have revamped some of our bulletins. We now have key messages that help keep you informed, help keep the public informed. We also have hot topics that allow you to have a bulleted aspect as to what those major talking points are that has come out of the board. We also have sounding boards now, which I think has helped to connect commissioners and not only the business of the board, but commissioners to, again, the public through a digital measure. Our annual report is hopefully coming out soon. And then we obviously have our LinkedIn page and our social media presence that we work with all the time. So those communication tools, we are going to be looking to continue that high bar that we have. And lastly, for our staff, we have professional and leadership development. I know we have had a couple of our staff members join NACO's Leadership Academy and our Leadership Oakland. We even had some commissioners attend, I know the Artificial Intelligence NACO Academy that they had, and brought some amazing feedback from those learning opportunities that we've had. And lastly, I will say, as we go in, like I said, we'll kind of go through a lot of this stuff. But there was the question about grants. We don't have any grants. No positions are grant funded. It's all general fund based. And if we did, I'd be sure to let you guys know about it. So in closing, I do have a video that I want to share with you just to highlight some of our staff efforts from our communications team, because again, I've already mentioned that they have risen the bar in that aspect. But I think what you'll see in that is that this budget will help to highlight the shared values that we have with transparency, efficiency, equity, and continuous improvement, and relies on and really highlights our strengths that we have. So bear with me here 1 second. there is one person that I think we should at least highlight for that video. And Audrey, if you don't mind standing up, I think you deserve a lot of that. So that's, again, our communications teams does an excellent job in preparing this stuff, and not only for budget hearings like this, but they do that on a consistent basis, just on our social media platforms as well. So I'm open to any questions.
Okay, thank you. All right, I will open it to the floor, starting with Commissioner Powell.
I just want to say thanks to Mr. Andrews for your leadership, and thanks to our communications team, because from when I started to where we're at now, and I've been that main person talking about we needed better social media presence. Y'all got to market us better. Don't nobody know what we do, and you all are doing it. So thank you, and you all are phenomenal staff. You guys help us. So all our staff, thank you all for so much.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Long.
I'm going to go to my microphone. I'm loud now. So that should be good. So on page, I have a couple line item questions. Page 176, on 731346, I'm just wondering, personal mileage, does that include county commissioners? That 30,000 budget recommended? Do you know if that includes
that
when
includes
we?
that includes your
we sign
expense
up.
reports that you submit. Yes.
Okay, that includes, and then, does certain staff get, did I cut out? Does certain staff get reimbursed for mileage too? You
We
guys,
do if we
you
go outside of, like Tri-County Summit would have been a great example there. So obviously we would come in here to this office, but then if we have to go out to another location for work purposes as per IRS guidelines, right? So.
Okay, thank you. And then, Mike, and maybe I should know this from last year, but I just don't remember. So 731822 special projects, and then the 731, now I'm too loud, 836 sponsorship. So we're going to put 175,000 budgeted for each of those. What's the difference between the special projects and sponsorship? Is the sponsorship like the Woodward Dream ones we do every year?
Yeah, sponsorships are more for those, like a corn maze or a corn, the one that we just applied or approved in finance. If you're looking at more special projects, those are more programmatic related or programmatic related, meaning that
Oh, so it's opposite what I
there's a little bit more involved other than just approving funding to sponsor a festival or things of that nature. As we
So
would do
will
for-
the special projects, would that be the ones that, like bocce ball, that come back every year? Or what's the distinction between, I'm still a little confused, the distinction
It
of
really
between-
relates to what the deliverables are that we have. I think you're also looking at a special project in the programmatic sense is not so, a bocce ball is mainly a sponsorship, but
Okay,
but a program, I'm just trying to think of a program.
Gun buyback would have been an
The buyback,
example
yeah.
that first started as a program through special projects.
okay. Because I've been calling it all, well, we call the application special projects funding, but that's okay, right?
It's
That's an
a broader
application.
categorical sense to it is what we describe it as.
Okay, and then it also seems, so we have 350 budgeted for them, and we used to have in 2023, 960,000?
So that is a great question. That was actually the actuals from 2023, and it was a combination of a lot of different projects that were actually spent in that year. Some of it might have been like a moth program that we actually appropriated the funds for in an earlier fiscal year that just were then carried forward and actually extended out or expended out that year after they got like a contract done and stuff like that. So there's a list of, like we had a school breakfast funding that was actually paid
Oh,
out
in
that
that,
year.
included in that, yeah, I remember that.
We had the Kids First Initiative, Power of Girlhood project that we had. That came out in 2023 with underneath that 960 there. Obviously, you had the ones that happen every year like Plazio, Winter Blast, and things of that nature. So,
Okay, so now basically, so I'm just saying this out loud, then our commissioners know. So we're basically, our goal is the 350,000. Is that it? 175, 170, yeah, 350,000 for all our projects included for the coming up budget year. So I just want to keep in mind, because then when someone requests 50,000, that's a big chunk of that if we're only doing 350,000. So I just want to bring that up to attention, because I remember that 960 and thinking we had more money in that. So just looking at this now, it's 350 for both things. So we all know as commissioners, when we're asked for larger amounts, that's taking a big chunk out of that for our yearly budget. So, correct, I'm right. So we have
Yeah,
350
correct.
total is what we
The
want our
960
goal.
is a little bit of an anomaly, because if you think about it, we were actually carrying forward the budget into that
Right.
year so that the actuals in the budget could match.
And that was when when we first started doing things, and I think we tightened up, but I just wanted to lift everyone's attention to we're really 350 now this year. That goes fast if people ask for 50,000 for this, 50 for that. So I wanted to make sure I'm clear on that and just bring it up to other commissioners' attention.
Correct.
Thank
And
you.
some of the bigger ones over the last couple of years that started out as, say, a $50,000 request, like Arts, Beats, and Eats.
Right.
We have actually handed off to economic development to be supporting going forward. So
Right.
I think there were 4 of those. There was Arts, Beats, and Eats, the Dream,
Is Dream Crew, no, do we give them?
No, not the Dream.
no,
Plaza.
the Dream Cruise, Arts, Beats, and Eats, Bocce Ball.
Bocce.
I forget what the other two.
Winter Blast. Yeah.
That's why we have him around.
Ooh, that's why we have Mike there. Okay.
So those are now being,
Right, I remember we
in the
moved those, and
economic
those
development
are
budget.
larger expense items.
right.
But
so-
still, the 350 can be gone fast, so I
Yes.
just like being cautious of, or not, mindful of what you request, I guess, to
Exactly
each
right.
commissioner.
And I
So,
think there's a process in place where, there's a vetting of the projects that come in when the commissioners use the form to submit
Right.
their,
I
submit
do
their
like the
special-
projects, because I did one today. It just gives the communities great opportunities for, in the shoes as well, so, but thank you.
Anybody, Commissioner Taylor?
Yes, thank you. I have questions. On page 175 in our big book, the first one that I have a question about is, I see it says fee income. What fees do we have? I'm unaware.
So we actually support like the Zoo Authority and the Art Authority on some of the support services, like a committee coordinator position, when they run their meetings. And I believe we have to present to the board to get it approved, a resolution for the contract for those support services for that. So recently, we just re-upped the contract with Zoo and Art, and it's really just reimbursing the board for their time to go assist those authorities for the meeting support that we have there.
Okay, thank you. And then on page 176, we have 732018, which is our travel and conference. Is that where we would put or ask the questions about the parking? I know that we had discussions with administration and you regarding reviewing that policy to increase the amount of parking dollars. Is that the budget for that?
Yeah, that is correct, yes.
So have we reviewed that policy?
Well, we've kind of right-sized it for fiscal year '26.
Okay.
And so I think at this point, we would, if that policy does need to change, obviously would bring that forth back to the board to get it approved. But for the funding aspect, I would probably want to take and just review it in how it's used and see where we're going with the budget for that specific item for like another year or something like that, or maybe half year before we look at those discussions with fiscal services to possibly increase it, so.
Okay.
But yes, that
That's
would be
where-
the line item that we look at, and I think we would have enough in there that would possibly cover any changes, unless obviously it's extravagant. But we have kind of right-sized those, not only workshops and the one right below it, workshops and meeting, but we've kind of right-sized those two based upon the data that we've had for the last 4 or 5 years to make sure that those are aligning properly and go from there, so.
Thank you again. And the presentation that you presented was great, and from there, I noticed that you had a link for policies and procedures, updates and stuff. Is that could you send that to me? Because we've had several discussions this past year about updating our policies and procedures. Yep. And I would just like to go out and see if those things have happened or where they are so that I can, stay current. I know that, that the office, you in the office have been working to do that for us, because we've made some changes like on the fly, and those things have to be updated.
Yeah.
Okay.
And what I would just say there is that for any of those, because I know that's a question of the departments as well, is that our documents on demand system is underneath our meeting resources pages, our meeting resource page on the board's website. So like reinforcing that message that it's literally within 2 clicks and you can get to resolutions, proclamations, policies of the county that are available through our documents on demand system. And that's it's not a supplement to Oakland that the clerk has as the official record keeper of the board, but this is it's again just another tool that we have out there that will build upon that transparency piece.
Okay, not being new, but kind of new, could you,
Yeah.
or one of the office staff just send me the link?
Yeah, we
I
can
appreciate
definitely do that.
Okay,
Yep.
then I have, on page 176 still, 730373, we have contracted services. Could you please tell me what those are?
So those are related to our agenda management system, our support from TCT to run the audio visual on that. We also have our LVPI, which is our contract with Rochester's Public Library for the visually, I forget the actual acronym, but visually impaired in there. So it's to help that library provide those services for those individuals in Oakland County looking for, that service for, the blind and things of that nature. So
Again, thank you. And just leaving our finance committee, we had an opportunity to speak with someone regarding the Oxford shooting. And I was just curious, questions came to my mind for commissioner safety. Do we have any kind of training available for the commissioners, or what is the emergency response process for the commissioners in this room or our committee room? I have not seen that or been.
That's a great question, and I would look to Tom Hardesty or possibly partner up with Tom Hardesty in the sheriff's office to make sure that you guys get that training very, very soon. So yeah.
Given the state of the world, I think a refresher might be necessary. And then I have one other is on succession planning. Have you identified the key jobs that you would need to maintain the Board of Commissioners and what we need? And then are you planning or have a succession planning for that?
So what I have identified is, again, that continuous learning aspect with our team and always advocating for them that we need to be continually learning in our roles that we have, whether it be like a policy analyst who is looking to go out and learn about grants writing or things of that nature, because obviously, as we know, the county does a lot of grants and the board approves a lot of grants. And so getting to know the finer aspects of how those grants might be written, I think with like the policy team might be helpful. Our operations team, getting some training on our teams, that IT has with our Microsoft Teams. How can we utilize that to conduct better meetings, whether it be internally or in the public setting like this? So I think, it's always continuous. So to answer your question, I would say that we're doing that on a daily basis. I don't have a written plan in place right now, but now you got me thinking that that might be a starting point for me as the chief to get something down for you. So.
Well, thank you. You've answered all my questions. That's it for me today. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Anybody else? Commissioner Spiz.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
I'm ready.
All the commissioners stole most of my questions, so good. Page 176, legal services 731073. I have my glass on so I can actually read now. Outside, for the legal services, 25K going across the board. Is that outside counsel?
That's outside counsel, yeah. Floyd Allen is our contracted service, but it's on an as-needed basis.
Okay, that's what I figured, okay. And another question for fiscal, and I asked this to everyone because it just doesn't make sense to me. Is the building space cost allocation, it's going down to 138K for the Board of Commissioners, and I don't think our footprint's changed much. And then the out years goes down to 130. It goes from 387 this year down, it drops drastically. Just doesn't make sense.
That's like we discussed yesterday.
Yes.
We did change some of the structure of the footprint. We're using the GIS piece now, so it could be that that footprint was over-exaggerated for a long period of
We have the
time, and we're
libraries.
right-sizing it.
All right. And then my other question, which fiscal service might have an issue, where do we put the Tri-County program and the bi-party program? So they come out of our budget or are they somewhere else?
Yeah, well, if you look on actually page, I knew that might be coming. So page 286, when you're looking at the non-departmental budget, we actually have a couple of things that the board is very much involved in with those line items. One is the Michigan Association of Counties, so that's our
Yep.
annual dues there. And then I think as you kind of read down through that, we have our tri-party, and then our local road improvement funding is right above all those.
Yep, I got them.
So,
We don't budget that for future years. That's a finance amendment that comes in, and then when it becomes an adopted budget, that will be merged in there. And it will live in non-departmental. And then it'll live in non-departmental 909, and as the resolutions go through the board and approve the payments, they'll move up to 901 and get paid out from there.
Okay. But I'm glad you brought it, thank you. I'm glad you brought up the MAC and NACO stuff. But aren't those specific to the Board of Commissioners or no? Am I missing
well, it
something?
kind
Why would they
of,
be in
that
our
feature,
budget?
yes, just in a sense of who attends those, but it's still delivering services to the county as a whole.
As a whole, okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
And I think those costs are based on county size, so there's no advantage to it being
Right.
just in one area.
Right. That's it?
Okay, thank you. Any other commissioner questions? Seeing none, we will close the hearing on the Board of Commissioners. Thank you very much. Okay. Couple
Mike, I
minutes.
missed the video. Can you play it again?
It is 2 minutes, right?
Could you email it to me?
Sure.
Commissioner Markham, are we at recess?
Yes, we're at recess for a couple of minutes for you to reset everything.
Perfect. You know, we
hearing. And everybody's given about 40 minutes. We're trying to fit in. Now, we ran over a few minutes because we got started late because we were trying to get some lunch. But anyway, that's just, we're trying to stay within 30 to 40 minutes, and you know, you guys talk a lot, so it's good. Just want to remind you.
I am guilty as charged, but I'll be super,
okay.
super speedy this time.
All right,
Are we ready?
floor is yours.
All right, thank you. All right, well, good afternoon. I'm Rod Davenport, CIO for the IT department for Oakland County. So I wanted to introduce my team. So we've got Ms. Kim Arango, who is our Director of Application and Client Services. Got Wolfgang Gorlick, who's our Chief Information Security Officer. Got Ms. Tammy I do remember. Sammy Shepard is one of our business relationship managers, and Monty Logan is our infrastructure director. So I'm just going to tee this up real quick, and then I will let each of the department directors take a deeper dive into the actual numbers for the budget. We've got 4 funds, and we've got 3 broad categories of some increases that we're asking for. So one of them is new investments. So we've got some AI stuff we want to do. We'd like to increase some of the strength of our cybersecurity. We've got some operating system expenses for a lot of our software as a service, and some of our cloud expenses are always increasing. And then, of course, we have some of the Clemens Authority separation costs that we are projecting to have for next year. So all that being said, we'll turn it over to Ms. Arango, and she will take us on a deep dive.
All right, thank you, Rod. Good afternoon, everyone. Nice to see everybody. So the very first fund that we're going to go through today is the Information Technology Fund. And what we have done in partnership with Fiscal is we have consolidated the Telephone Communications Fund with the Information Technology Fund. A driver for that is because we had the Telephone Communications Fund, when it was first set up, was a self-sustaining, very narrow-scoped focus, but as technology has improved and changed, there's an overlap with a lot of the things that we do in the infrastructure space of information technology. And so it just made sense, because the revenue and expenses were split across the 2 funds, to really just bring them all together in one fund. And so what you're seeing here as part of the change from 2025 to 2026 includes a net neutral move of about $7.9 million associated with the Telephone Communications Fund into the Information Technology Fund, because we have zeroed out the balance of that fund. Additionally, associated with this, as Rod mentioned, we are including in this departmental operational chargebacks that we do for device charges that are used inside of those departments, as well as any costs that come from investment as part of previously approved projects that are being charged back to those departments. The last thing that you'll see in the revenue slide that's on this next slide is a plan to increase the use of planned use of fund balance. And that's really just a holding place right now. As Rod mentioned, we have expenses that we have planned for as part of this proposed budget that have to do with both new investments as well as the separation of Clemens into its own authority. And right now, until that authority change happens and we're able to do the budget amendment with Fiscal Services, we've got a placeholder in planned use of fund balance as the revenue for that. This slide is just obviously breaking down what I just went through in more detail in terms of the separation of those costs into charges of services, both for our proprietary funds and external agencies, as well as our general fund, as well as the use of the planned use of fund balance to get to that total revenue change that you see here. When we look at the expenditures that are included, you'll see the same change from fiscal year 25 to 26. As Rod mentioned, we do have a couple of different things that break up those numbers. We've got about $7.9 million in that net neutral consolidation of IT telephone communication funds. So if you go through the individual line items that are associated with equipment, communications, things of that nature, and you see some jumps from what we have planned in the amended budget for 25 to 26. Some of that is driven by that consolidation that occurred. Additionally, we've got about $3.8 million in operating expense increases that we have planned for that have to do again with software costs related to SaaS or software products that we buy. We've got at least 70 contracts that we're looking at right now for just the 2026 fiscal year alone, along with anything that we took on as an investment, either through major resolutions that came to you as the board or through planned projects and investment that were part of the departmental budgets that got presented for 25 last year. We also have new investment that we're planning for, about $2 million there. Rod mentioned launching an AI program. We have enhanced Microsoft data security and governance platform changes that we would like to invest in to assist many of our different departments. And then we also want to increase our CrowdStrike security monitoring, and so there's additional costs associated with that. We also have another small group of things a part of that new investment. We've got an opportunity for making a provider change with our data center, as well as radio antennas for the sheriff that we're investing in. And then last, there's about $2.5 million there that are driven by what we perceive as changes that are coming over to IT related to the Clemis Authority separation. So that includes that we're looking at bringing in a managed service organization to help manage the cost or manage the infrastructure in order to support Clemis through this transition, as well as the bringing over of items that are currently in the Clemis Fund over to the IT department, because the IT department is going to continue to manage some of the software products supporting the county that's not in scope of the Clemis Authority. This, of course, is just a breakdown. You'll see from this that personnel is a small part of the increase that we have there, but really it is those operating expenses that are driving the increases as I just talked through. Next, I'm going to hand it off to Monty for a moment so that he can go ahead and talk through the radio fund.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Monty Logan, Director of Infrastructure Services at the county. And hit next, oops, this way. There we go. So I'll talk about the radio fund. So really the major change for this year's budget is due to the implementation of the P25 radio system that we launched last year. So that's really the changes for this particular budget really revolve around that activity. As we look at the revenue, and I'll jump to the next slide, revenue has stayed flat over the years, and then really we see the big increases because of the depreciation that we're actually taking on with respect to the planned use of funds to cover off on that increased depreciation for the new system. And if you look at the slide, you see the flat revenue, and then the planned use of funds, you see the spike that's covering off on the depreciation. With respect to the expenditures for the radio system, again, we see the largest hit is the increase by way of depreciation that's there. And then also, we've actually included a managed services for the new call handling system, not the call handling system, but the network, excuse me, for the network that we manage, that's managed for us. So that's also included in that increase. So those are really the major changes with respect to the radio program. The remaining costs and budget items have been fairly consistent. So I have another slide, but it kind of says what I just covered off. Okay, I will turn it back to Kim.
Thank you. So the next item that's here is the Clemis Fund. Because the authority has not been formed, there continues to be a fund in our overall IT picture for Clemis until that time. Really, the only changes that have been made in this fund are items that have been worked through with the finance team, because if you were to look at the depreciation associated with the computer equipment, those assets are county assets. Those are going to stay with the county, and so proactively, finance has already moved some of that depreciation over to the IT fund budget, which will also account for some of the increases in the depreciation that you see inside the IT fund. Clemis did not submit any changes to their operating expenses associated with this budget, with the intention that there will be a budget amendment coming forward when the authority is formed in order to close this out. So I'm going to just kind of quickly step forward then, maybe. Oops. Similarly, you'll see here that those changes again are just in the expenditures aligned with the changes that finance has made in preparation for the upcoming authority. Same thing for the fire records management. There is very little change that has been made both to the revenue side and to the expense side associated with fire records. This is because, again, as part of the Clemis Authority, these items will be included in the budget amendment when that authority is formed, reducing these costs. So nothing new was submitted from last year. With that, I'm going to get to just the last two slides, which have to do with the personnel numbers and grant impact. So you will see here that we are holding steady at our adopted number, 173 personnel with 25 vacancies, which is obviously a little bit of a jump in comparison to the previous year. That is explainable because when the decision was made to form the Clemis Authority, as vacancies happened in the positions that were held by FTEs in the Clemis team, those positions were held as open rather than filling those during this transitional period. So of the vacancies that you see there on the board, 5 are actually PT&E, things that we use for students or interns. 12 are the Clemis positions that are on hold. Of the remaining positions, 5 are actively being recruited for and have postings out there so that we can fill them, because that is part of just our ongoing staff turnover in the IT section of the department. We do not, we do not have any grants that are included in our budget at this time, and therefore no FTE positions that are funded in any of the 4 funds that were just discussed at this time. I think I went through it pretty fast because I'm assuming there will be a fair number of questions that will come forward, knowing that there were a lot of line items.
Okay, I'll open it to the commissioners, starting with Commissioner Long, then Commissioner Smith-Charles.
Thank you. So on page, let's see, 355, under the radio communications, big book, the line item 730926, indirect cost, that is budgeted for $208,000. What does that include, since we're all into indirect costs now?
I can take that one, Commissioner. Those are the indirect costs that we get from the Maximus study that get allocated out to the other departments. So those are basically the costs for the treasurer's office, finance, HR, the departments that are internal service departments to the other county departments. And Maximus does that calculation, tells us how much all of those costs get allocated to each of the departments, and that's what that is.
So that is similar to the sheriff's contract indirect cost?
Absolutely, exactly the same.
Okay, so that will be a line item. I don't know if that used to be, is that a new line item? I
No,
don't remember.
it's always been there. We've just been talking about it a lot.
Okay. All right, thank you. That's it for now.
Is that it? Okay, Commissioner Smith-Charles.
Thank you. Just in a nutshell, what does the fire, what did I put it? Fire records piece, what is that?
Sure, it's software that is utilized by fire departments as part of the larger Clemis being able to do law enforcement response. So it is software and services that's provided for fire stations as part of the response team in that Clemis suite.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Yes.
That's all I have, Chair.
Okay.
Okay, Commissioner Spiz.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Go yell that again. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to stick with fire records for a second. You made a comment relative to that. Is that moving with Clemis? When
Yes.
it moves to independent. Okay, so that'll completely move that entire budget. Okay. first question. My other questions, from an IT perspective in general, if you go to page 383. Let's start with software support maintenance, 731,780. It goes
Yes.
from 7.2 million to 9.8 million in '26.
Yes, so this is the countywide software that is installed at all of the different departments. So when I mentioned we've got at least 70 contracts we're looking at this coming fiscal year alone, many of those items are items that sit inside of the departmental budgets. And so we've made significant investment in different software throughout the year. Some of the money that is also listed here is internal software investment in the IT function as well. It's a blend of all those costs.
Okay. And then I'm gonna go down a little bit more to contracted services. It jumps from 8.9 million to 14 million in '26, 16 and '27, and back to 13 and '28.
Yes.
What's driving that? Yeah.
Yes. So part of that is the telecom money that came over. There's a little over $1 million in telco that came over. We also have the managed services contract costs that are associated with that. And then because we are absorbing some of the Clemis product into the fold, that is also creating some of the increases associated with that.
Okay, thank you. Go down a little farther.
I will also add that some of the new requests that we've made related to, for example, the launch of the AI program, increasing the software for the CrowdStrike is also part of that line item. So those new requests are also baked in there.
Thank you. Sliding down a little bit to 750,154 to expendable equipment, jumping from 2.2 to 5 million.
Yes, so again, some of that is related to changes between the different budgets, bringing some of the money over to it. Some of that is also in relationship to the new requests that we're making. So we're talking about some changes from a data center perspective. We're talking about bringing some of the infrastructure costs in from the other budget line items. And so that's driving the increases up.
Okay, thank you. And then I'm going down to depreciation in general. I have a bunch of questions because a lot of those went up. Are we buying a bunch of new equipment that's going to be depreciated? Or how's that working? Because if you look at the first one, just on computer equipment, went from 1.3 to 3.8.
So the basic issue with that is the Clemis infrastructure belongs to IT. So we've moved that infrastructure and the corresponding depreciation over to IT. So you'll see it coming out of Clemis and going into the IT fund.
Okay. Thank you. And then the general question, since we're talking about telecom, and I made a comment earlier in the finance committee meeting, looking at the very last line item, telephone equipment, it looks like as of '28, we're out of telephone equipment because there's no money in 2028 for telephone equipment.
That is what we talked about, moving that into the IT fund. So we moved we moved the telephone, like if you're looking at page 389, we moved all those numbers up into the IT fund. We're not keeping track of the telephone fund separately because it's all basically the same digital footprint.
And then that makes sense, but it goes to zero in 2028 per this budget. Is that true? Depreciations, everything's paid
Must be looking
off?
at the wrong line item. What are you looking at?
383, page 383, bottom line item under depreciation. 760,172.
I'll have to look at that.
Do you have it?
That, as I read it, that's the existing equipment that we depreciated from the deployment of the initial VoIP system.
Still goes to zero because it's fully depreciated.
That's correct.
That's understandable.
Yeah.
Thanks, Monty.
Yep.
And then I think I'm going to my general question from an IT perspective, since your budget item is one of the largest we have in the county. I think it's in the top 5. what's being done in the IT department to drive down cost? You know, what are your like top five hitters from a KPI or whatever, software reduction? Because again, you're the top 5 money user in the county.
So I guess we do more of an opportunistic cost reduction because a lot of our work is driven from department requests. So as the requests come in, we try to see if there's opportunities to consolidate systems. So I think we're working a thing now with Workday as a recruiting module to potentially replace the iSIM. So as the requests come in, we sanity check them, and then through our business relationship managers, we kind of get in the dialogue with the departments to say, okay, if there's enough overlap, it's cheaper to consolidate rather than to bring in new. From an internal perspective, we, this past year plus, we've been revamping our internal project management processes. So as Kim has been bringing in more of an agile methodology, we realigned some of our annual planning cycle to better match what the department's planning cycles are. And we've saved about 4,000 hours internally with people, clocking their time and working through. So a lot of the things that we've done, I guess, in terms of savings is mostly efficiency type of things. We do have some opportunities working with purchasing moving forwards through some of our Gartner advisory services to kind of do a benchmark across the proposals that we receive. So sometimes we can't really do much. Like with Microsoft, it's a government rate and we can't move it. But for some of the smaller vendors, we can see that if we're getting a good deal or not. I think it'll help us work with purchasing to reduce some of that. So we have some efforts to try to reduce the cost, but then, like I said, we have to work with the departments as well.
And I can respect that because but some of the issues, at least I've seen outside of this in IT, is when you work with the departments, the departments come and make a request, but there's a lot of cases that they only care about what benefits them, right? Even though there might be a better solution out there that helps them plus 3 other departments, and they're not willing at times to merge those pieces of equipment or software tools together because they want just this because some salesman called them and that's what they want, right? So I look at IT as, you're a service to the entire county. And one of your objectives should be, how do I continue to drive down the operational costs of the county as a whole? And if you see that, of course, from what you described, you're going to jump on it right away. But I'm sure there's other opportunities out in the county that are there today that were done before you guys were here, right? That we could take advantage if we said, okay, Department A, B, and C, let's go this direction, and we can reduce our cost by 10%.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a very fair point. And I think the recent addition of our business relationship managers helps us to kind of get a more thorough cross view. So, I would say that there's a variance between, I'll call it the IT intensity of the departments, and some of them use more, some of them use less. But as the relationships, I guess, are strengthened, we'll be able to get more of a global picture so that we can suggest to them about opportunities as we see them.
I think the other thing that is working well for us is one of the people that was introduced into the team this year is someone who's in partnership with the purchasing office and spending a lot of time looking at what we're doing from a contracting perspective, helping us get out in front of what our opportunities are. So as you said, we may have software products that have been brought in and we're living with that contract today, but now there's an opportunity for us to look at, have we brought in enterprise software that would give us an opportunity to utilize that and maybe get rid of something niche? Are there some different players in the market at different cost points? And so we are trying to pull forward those types of conversations so that we can look at some of these larger platforms and can we expand on the existing licensing we have to drive out some of the products. Our BRMs are also sitting in some of the strategic planning meetings that are happening as well with the executive office in terms of what the departments want to focus on over the next couple of years. And so that's giving us some forward visibility to what they're thinking both short, mid-term, and long-term so that we can start putting together some technology strategies that we want to offer as part of that conversation to try and help drive the visibility that isn't just the salesperson came in and had a conversation and drove it. So we're trying to increase all of that partnership and that strength through that process and have that conversation. The last thing I do want to say is about the budget. While it is large in the request, it is not all new request.
Okay.
And so that does, I think, sometimes also give a perspective of larger than it is.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm done.
Okay. Commissioner Powell?
I have a question.
Use your mic.
Everybody else yesterday, okay. with the fire records, right? So is that like how our clerk needs this type of service to protect our fire, remember that fire suppression system or whatever? Is that in our budget? Does that come out of your budget? It will come out of hers?
It's facilities management, isn't it? You got it.
I'm just an advocate for
It's-
us to get that rectified for her. So I was
Correct.
just trying to
So-
see if it was in your budget or hers.
No, so that type of system would be part of the facilities management budget, and they
Oh,
would be
okay.
the appropriate group to support that conversation.
Okay, but once that get installed, is that what that is, fireworks management?
No, this,
Oh, okay,
this,
so what is that?
this is strictly software systems that are part of the Clemis product to
Got it.
support the agencies that are part of that network and community for the fire stations that are part of that community.
Okay, thank you for the clarity.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, all right.
Anybody else? Commissioner Taylor?
Yes, just real quick. Hi. I know that, again, I'm on the safety and all that kind of stuff. And I know that we have a lot of new technology and all this kind of things that's going on. But when I was in Philadelphia, 911 went down. It was completely out. Do you have something in place, and are people trained and know where the manuals and all that kind of stuff is, if there was some kind of an emergency outage due to weather, whatever, so that we can continue doing business as uninterrupted as possible?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and I think it's probably one that's better aimed to the sheriff's office when they're here later today, because they manage all of the procedures for the rollover between the different locations. So they have an entire procedure that if something happens, whether it is here at the 911 dispatch that's here or any of the what they refer to as PSAPs, which are the other locations distributed throughout the county, they have procedures and process in place to do rollovers so that they can take over responsibility for one another to ensure ongoing services. And they would be best to explain those procedures.
Okay. Well, given IT, what is your thoughts about the county's readiness for the new technology coming out, AI and all that kind of stuff? We've had several.
Sure. Well, I mean, the AI is always close to my heart.
Yes,
So.
yes.
Yes. Oh my gosh, this is so awkward because I want to talk to you, but the microphone's here. How about we do this like, I'm leaning at a bar. So in terms of AI, we've been having some conversations with Google. So we've had a 2-day exploratory session with some of the business units to talk about the art of the possible. I think we recently just got through legal and purchasing to get some licenses for ChatGPT. So we've got the enterprise license for those that we're going to try to start seeding. I think that because it's new to us, I think that with some training, we could get people to kind of ramp up quickly with some of the base functions of it. As we start thinking about how do you use it in a more advanced way, then we're going to have to start looking at the data. How do we make it AI ready? I think we're going to have to work with the departments to think about what are some good use cases for this. So, in my own experimentations, there's a lot of rapid advancement, but it's still a little bit rough. So this, in a lot of ways, this reminds me of the start of the internet from like the late 90s into the 2000s. So a lot of potential, but things are still evolving rapidly. And I think that people kind of fall into two camps. There's the people that say, oh, I think it's gonna be able to do it all, and maybe it could someday, but we're not quite there. So even with the new agentic AI, you could say, okay, we'll go book a trip for me, and it'll get most of the way through. And sometimes it'll be successful, and sometimes it'll stall. It's great for summarizing. I think it's great. People have a lot of benefit from editing emails and working through Word documents and that sort of thing. But I think in terms of fully automating a workflow in a way that has high accuracy, the industry, I think itself is still a little bit immature. And so we have a ways to go, I think, in terms of the adoption of that. But the potential's high.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I'll just add to that. A lot of the enterprise platforms that we're bringing in, those software vendors are looking at how do they embed AI capabilities as part of that underlying platform. So I think a large opportunity for us is, as we're working with the business functions in each of the departments, to think about how can we also take advantage of those capabilities because they are secured within the platform. And so there's opportunity to get people comfortable inside of, I'll say, a safe space related to the security that's set up around that platform that they're using.
Great. And my last question is, IT being so important to every part of Oakland County. What is your succession planning? Have you identified the key roles that we need to have in order to keep IT up? And are we doing succession planning for that?
So
and is the budget covered? I mean, are you covering that for training, positions, that kind of thing?
Yeah, so we do have a training budget. I'd say that we're in the early stages of this. I mean, luckily today we've seen the succession planning for me, so very strong leadership team. So that part is good. We've had some targeted succession planning. There's some areas that are a high percentage of them are retirement eligible, and so we've been doing Monty especially has been doing some proactive backfilling there. I'll be honest with you, we need to do a better job with this, and I think that it's challenging because although given the kind of the state of the world, I think that there's some good IT talent there, but it's still attracting them into government can be a bit of a challenge. And so our hiring sometimes has been a little bit slow, but it is something that we have our eye on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think Commissioner Spiz was next, and then Commissioner Powell.
So do I one, but I'll let you go first, ladies first.
Eventually, because AI is like this big thing, and I know it's a couple commissioners that we really are trying to understand this, right? At some point, because I haven't seen us as our home, like talk about the AI and training workers, or I may have missed it because I don't keep up with everything. But if we haven't done it yet, does your department eventually feel like at some point you may do training sessions or something with staff to start talking about the AI world? Because I'm very interested. Thank you.
Do you want to go or you want me to?
Either, I guess. Yeah, so that's a good point. My thought on this is that, government, I think, has they're notoriously conservative with some of the tech adoption, and I think it's good because we want to have continuity and we want to make sure that it's not flash in the pan stuff. So there's a risk in IT of jumping on a trend a little too soon, and then, it doesn't really mature and manifest, and you don't really extract the value. I personally am pretty confident that AI is going to deliver a lot of value, but I want to make sure that before we start doing a big training campaign, that we could kind of maybe work a little bit more from the ground up to say, okay, well, what are some things that would be highly successful if we were to try to automate them? I think it's important to keep, get some early wins and get some momentum and get people comfortable with it. Because AI is new and it's evolving, I think that there's some folks have some fear about, maybe it's going to take all of our jobs. I don't think we're close to that yet in terms of the AI maturity. I see AI being more as a booster for people to do more, and maybe even to do things that they personally might not have the depth of skill to do, but the AI can augment it. So I think there will be some training moving forward. I think first we need to work together to identify what some good starting points would be.
So in the meantime, though, at least now I'm doing a personal ask for us commissioners. If you see any bottom elementary level workshops or something that we can go to, because Andrews he's been great at trying to find us some, but this is y'all expert land. So can y'all share that information so we can start at least, because I don't understand not an iota thing. I follow you, but I don't, and I know it's a complicated little.
No, I get that a lot. It's more of a me thing, I think.
So so if you can just share that with us so we can start kind of educate ourselves there until y'all get to your point to.
Yeah, there's training available, and again, we got to be, maybe we'll vet it internally because some of the training. No,
I want y'all to vet, and y'all send us what y'all think is best for us. Y'all know what we need here, but because NACO's doing some stuff, we get that, but please, because I'm like a baby with that topic. So thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Spiz.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Since we're on the AI topic, one thing is the Board of Commissioners we really need to consider is policies and procedures for AI.
Yeah.
That's what really scares me to death, is once it really gets here, how are we going to protect not only the county, but as many of the residents we can from getting taken advantage by AI? Because that is one of the big fears of mine, because once it gets too powerful, we need to control it. For example, the example I like to use is, if you all see it on social media today, pictures, right? You see all these fake videos. To me, I wish the federal government would jump in on this and said, anything you do like that, you need to put a disclaimer on it that this is created by AI. They do it for everything else out there, that it is required if you're going to post it and use it, or there's a criminal offense against it. So Stuff like that, from a county perspective, we need to start talking about once we get a little closer, of course, with advice from our IT team. But it's something that, in the back of my head, is always bothering me that we need to somehow address this here quickly, right?
Yeah, and I will say, I want to thank Commissioner Smith-Charles for starting a conversation a few weeks ago with a few of the members of the Board of Commissioners to start having a conversation about what might a path look like forward, both from thinking about what are important things in a policy perspective that all of you need to consider as part of it, and how can we potentially support from a technology perspective the alignment of what we bring in and the behaviors that we teach. So I think that's something that she started the conversation with us on. I expect we're probably going to continue that conversation, so for sure.
Good to hear. Okay,
Yeah.
now my budget question. I forgot it in my first series.
I thought
Sorry.
you were done. You said
No,
one.
I did, but I found one. I skipped over this, and I don't know how I skipped over this, but you made a comment at the beginning
Yes.
about the planned use of the fund balance.
Yes.
And if you look on page page 381, 66582.
I'm not surprised that you're asking me this question.
It's a jump from, I think we're shifting 1.5 million from fund balance this year, but we're going to change that number to 19.6 million in 2026, 20 million in 27, and 17 million again in 28. And you touched on it, but I'd like you to kind of expand on that
Sure.
description of what that money is going to be used for.
Sure. So do you want to jump in or do you want me to go?
It's totally up to you.
Yeah?
I can take this one.
All right.
So, we've been talking about what Brian likes to call the divorce from Clemis. And there's going to be Clemis has been before this board asking for some dollars. That's where these dollars are kind of living right now. They're probably going to come out of fund balance as opposed to out of the IT budget. But this is just a placeholder for them so that we can see what's going on with them.
So we're expecting $19 million for the transfer of Clemis in 20.
No, we aren't. I know that they're asking for 20 million. I know that they've asked for 3
For 3 years, yeah.
conversations.
26, 27, 28. I mean, like I understand 1 year maybe even 2, but it just seems it's extended too long for that dollar amount, unless something else is intended to be used for it. I mean, don't get me wrong, if it's a good use of fund balance, I'll support it, but I just need to understand what it's for.
No, I don't think it's going to be that large going forward. As we talked about yesterday, we kind of hyper-focus on 26, glance at 25 or 27, and then 28 is kind of like, we'll just fill it in and make sure we're kind of, thumb in the air. And that's what's going on. I can assure you that this is not what the fund balance transfers are going to look like.
Commissioner Long made a comment that she didn't think we were going to use any fund balance.
That was our presentation by County Executive Coulter.
We can address that when that comes up later.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the conversation when Clemis goes to the authority, because Clemis has always been a cost to the county.
Correct.
And we're trying to eliminate that, but part of that is, like Brian likes to call, a divorce. So you kind of have to pay to make someone go away. And I think that's...
And I understand there's a cost, I just want to
Yeah.
make sure I understood that. And I think 19 is a little higher than I expected, and 20 the next year is even more than I expected, so it's something I'm going to look at and watch very closely. I know I've been talking to Mr. Carlson about some of this transfer, and he's been presented to us a few times, and I've been in support of it in general from a Clemis shift, but from a cost perspective, I'm going to want to understand it in more detail.
Well, and I think part of this for us was because it's still so in flux. We had a really hard time figuring out exactly what the dollars were going to look like. And so as those plans get solidified and we figure out who's going where and what they're doing, you're not going to see $19 million coming out of fund balance for Clemis this year, or in the future, in 26.
Okay, thank you.
You and I will be both watching it.
Yeah, because I mean, if you just look what's in the budget today, Clemis's, the cost is 11 million and expenses 12.5, so we're losing $1.5 million a year. So I sure hope it doesn't take 20 million to transfer out of it, because then it really doesn't make sense. I'd rather lose 1.5 for the next 10 years than to lose all that cash right now.
Well, but part of that stuff is talking about staffing. So some of the staff is staying with IT, some of the staff is becoming part of the Clemis Authority. Like I said, we're still hammering out all those details. This was just kind of how it looked at this point, but you and I both will be watching it.
Thank you.
Commissioner Smith Charles.
335.
Just a quick question about training for your staff. Like last spring or this past spring, there was that AI Academy, for example. NACO has different leadership academy. I think I saw someone up there had just completed one. And I think this is the opposite of what Commissioner Powell was saying, not so much what can you point us to, but are we able to point you all to things? So in other words, if I see that NACO has something going on, I don't want to overstep and be like, can you send some people? But can I say, can you send some people?
For sure. There's no overstepping. I mean, we're full state of collaboration, right? So yeah, if you come across something that you think would be good, we're happy to send the people.
And now would that then apply to your, do you have a training, I'm sure you do, line item on here that wouldn't perhaps take you over and above? And if so, then we would address that as necessary?
Yeah, I think we're generally fine with the training.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I didn't think about it until just this moment, but there are things that I'm like, oh, I wonder if our IT people are aware of this conference or training or whatever. So, okay, thank you.
All right, if there are no other questions or comments for IT, going once, going twice. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right, we're going to take a 2-minute break. of the county executive, covering DEI, sustainability, and the Office of Strategic Initiative. And we have before us April Lynch.
Thank you. So just a friendly reminder that the county executive's budget has a hodgepodge of different programs within each, within its own division. So today
I'm going
we're
to stop you, April,
Yes.
and ask you to just make sure you're real close to the mic.
Okay, all right, all
We're
right.
having trouble with that.
I get you. All right, I have to do the Angie Powell move. Okay. So we have multiple programs under the executive. So today we're focused on, I have Julie here from the Office of Sustainability. I have Sarah from Strategic Initiatives. I have Henry here from Performance Management, and I have Harry here for the Office of DEI. There are other ones that are under the executive as well, which is, I think, mostly Corporation Counsel, MIDC, and the Public Defender's Office. Those are separate. So these are just focusing on those particular areas here right now, as well as the executive, the administration. So I have 10 minutes and 32 slides, so we can do this. I know we can. So in general, when we look at administration, that is primarily all of us deputies, our support team, and any other in any other capacity that doesn't include all the people I talked about. So you can see here we're pretty consistent. You'll notice the dip from 23, 24, and 25 is, again, we've kind of pulled out those programs to create their own space. So that's where strategic initiatives and performance management, and I think even at one time we had DI in administration, and we pulled that out as well. So it's just a money mover arounder to make it more clear and accurate, so you can see each program individually, which you can see in the budget book. Personnel, we've remained consistent, and again, you can see that some of them it's down because we moved some of those into different divisions underneath the executive's office. Do you guys want me to go through this really quickly and ask questions all at once, or do you want them per parsed out group? Okay, we can do that. All right, we can go through it all, is okay? Compliance office, again, pretty stable, nothing new here. That is underneath Sean Carlson. I don't really have any that's been pretty consistent throughout, and no changes have been made to this program. DEI, you can see pretty stable, up just slightly, just from, again, normal expenditure increases. They remain, again, at 4 full-time staff, no additional asks for this year. I would like to just, in each category, talk a little bit about some of the highlights and what we're looking at. So in 2025, they really ramped up the DI training program. We have multiple programs that are for all of our employees to ensure that we have good training that's not only for leaders, but for all of those here that serve our 1.2 million residents. The events have really kicked up here at DI with MLK Day of Service, Dr. Calanda Green's Equity panel, the ERG Fair, Juneteenth, Gather with Pride, Diverse Connections, everything you can think of. We're really trying to bring community together as we celebrate the diversity here at Oakland County. The big one that has really moved in with the DEI group is the Employee Resource Group. So that started in this fiscal year, but you'll start to see a lot of alignment in the next fiscal year. And I do have, when we have time for questions, Harry is here to answer any of those. So when you look at 26, again, continue with the countywide DI employment engagement. So we're starting to really use our teams and our employees to create the energy that we want in that space around DEI. And then also making sure that we continue with our training. And we've had some amazing trainers that Harry has brought to this team to make sure that we have a really diverse offering that supports all the training that we need throughout the county. And then again, as I talked about, the ERG groups are really hitting their stride this year, and we're really excited to see what they're going to bring to the table. Office of Sustainability, again, is ran by Julie Lyons-Brinker. Again, nothing too notable. There is an amendment to create one of her part-time folks to be full-time. That's the biggest area of increase within her budget. Other expenditures remain fairly stable. Again, same with personnel positions adopted, remains at, it would be 4 full-time folks. I'd like to talk a little bit, just a reminder of some of the things that Julie and her team has done over this last year. And of course, at that time, Aaron was there as well, but Julie's been part of this process, is the MEDC Enhancement Grant, the EAGLE Grant, and we did manage quite a significant ARPA program with the Michigan Saves program, as well as some other voucher programs to help and support and getting some in-kind support for us to continue to lead the way in sustainability. You can see as we move to 25-26, same energy. We're looking to continue to partner with facilities to reduce energy consumption, and I'm sure they'll talk a lot about that at the facilities program. They're doing great work with Parks and Recs and WRC as well. We continue to look at our inventory, understand where we can pave the way to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions. We've just started, they've done a great job, and not only are we doing ERGs, but we're creating these champion groups throughout our employees so that they have, for those that don't necessarily align with the ERG, there are other champion groups that they can participate in. We have a lot of people here in Oakland County, employees who are very dedicated to sustainability, so that kicked off and is going very well. Doing a lot with procurement to support some procurement policies as it relates to sustainability, and continue to look at hazard mitigation. I think another big piece for Julie and her team will be to focus on really connecting with our CVTs and making sure that they're part of supporting all of those that have some of the same goals that we do. I think it goes without saying, this year things look very different for us because we aren't more than likely going to get a lot of federal grants, but talking to Julie, the state is still stepping up what they're doing, and we talked a lot about that. There is a lot of things that we can still do internally and to support our CVTs that don't necessarily need and require federal funding. Performance management, here with us is Henry, who is leading what we call KPIs, our key performance indicators. I think, again, very stable. We stayed at two people and kept our budget fairly stable. I think that what it's nice to know what we're doing is we're actually growing our program. So what started off as key performance indicators, Henry is working with each department to make sure that each department has a strong strategic plan that helps them manage their budget needs, make sure that we're all moving forward in that same space, and making sure that their KPIs do align not only with their strategic plan, but the overall goals of the county. And then the last thing is, as we start moving into finishing these strategic plans and continuing to refine our KPIs, we're starting this now, but what we're really excited about is continuous improvement. How can we fix things that may need to be, I wouldn't say better, but improved? Are there ways that we can do things better? Why are we not meeting our goals? What can we do to address those? So we're really excited to have him and Sahi on the team to address that. And again, budget has remained stable. This one, strategic partnerships and initiatives, I think might be the first time you see this actually called out in the budget. Really excited about that. Sarah Gold has done some amazing work. I've been here a year and a half, 2 years? Almost 2 years, crazy. Again, you can see here that our, let's see, the budget versus actual. I'm not really sure why that jumped up. Got it. Again, moving everything into one location instead of everywhere else. Other than that, it's pretty stable. They have 2 folks, and they're not adding much to the budget this year at all, other than just normal cost of inflation. But what I want to talk about, too, is some of the things that they've done here. They've introduced the use of Instrumental. It's a grant prospecting tool across the county. That has been helping to support our teams and our departments to make sure that we have the funds that, we can, helps us, what we call uncover every rock or return every rock. As you can see, she's unturned quite a few rocks this year, almost $10 million worth of grant funds we brought into the county or our partners through the support of Sarah and her teammate Lily. And again, as we move forward, that things will look a little different, but there's still, funds out there that we can seek and look for, and Sarah and her team have been phenomenal in helping to support those of us who may need a little extra oomph to help support what we're doing. As it relates to our grants, we don't have, and our teams don't typically have the grants. We source the grants for the other departments. So even the grants that sustainability get are typically to use in facilities. And I know that That was important to our auditors as well, to make sure that whoever is using those funds, it goes in their department. So technically, when you look at the team of us sitting up here, we don't have any grant-funded programs per se, and it's typically, when we do have grants that these teams are able to secure, it's typically for enhancements, not for general operations. And then we don't have anybody on the teams that we just talked about that are fully or partially grant-funded. I did do that in 10 minutes, so you have plenty of time for questions. I might have went too fast.
Pretty
but-
good.
All right.
Okay.
We're ready.
I will open it up to the commission. Oh, come on, you guys got to have questions.
I have questions. I'll go first with a
Commissioner
simple
Spiz.
question, then
Okay.
I'll cede the floor to somebody else for a little bit anyway. April, you did mention that a couple of the departments are going to be absorbed into one larger apartment. Is that true? Because some of the budgets have a headcount of 2, 4. Are you going to keep it separated that way, or are they going to be?
So we already separated
So
them.
you're separating them, keeping them that way?
Yep, they're in there right now this year.
Yeah, okay, but reason I'm asking, because I'm not used to seeing a budget for a department with 2 people, right? Or a department with 4 people, because it's just like, okay,
Yeah.
they need to be
They're not-
brought into a larger department per se,
Yeah.
than trying to separate it, because it's just more work for everybody when it's that small. But I guess the bigger question is the reason it's done this way because the longer term intent is to grow those departments even bigger, or what's the plan?
I think the plan was really to make sure that we could understand what we were spending, to be honest. And so what they're considered as programs or division under the executive's office. So it's more or less to align to make sure they have the resources that we need and that we know what we're spending on that. Otherwise, you have to pull them from different, like even sustainability when it started, some of it was coming out of the executive budget, some of it was coming out of facilities. So it was really just to keep them as a program under. So they're not technically a department, they're still under the exec, but they're considered a program. And it was just to manage and monitor their spending and expenditures and their budget.
Okay.
Of course, we want to grow them bigger, but no, but that really wasn't the intention.
That was a loaded question, by the way.
Yeah,
so.
okay.
Okay, I do have other questions. Anybody else have more? All right, I'm going to go into the
You're going to do page number for me?
page number.
All right, let's do it.
Thing. Get me started. Page 182, professional services, 731,458. We jumped roughly about $180,000 from 25 to 26, and I'm just wondering what the executive group uses for professional service. I'm sure I could go department by department and maybe figure it out, but hoping you can answer it for me.
April, if
yes.
I can jump in for you
Yep.
real quick. One thing that you're going to see on that professional services. Oh, sorry, can you hear me? Perfect. One thing that you'll note on that professional services line item is the Office of Sustainability. There is a carry forward that frankly, it didn't load into their area properly, so you're seeing a negative budget. That's why you're seeing this giant jump. If you compare their adopted numbers to the actual proposal, you're seeing only actually about a $10,000 increase.
Is that the $110,000
No.
removal that's in here somewhere I saw for one of the departments?
Yes, for Office of Sustainability. So
Yep,
that's
okay.
actually being corrected in the
Okay, that's an
Q3
error,
forecast
okay.
we'll be bringing you. So that actual increase in professional services is truly about $10,000.
Yes, with that, okay, that explains it. I did have that flag too.
Okay, but that's not that wasn't your original one though, right?
What was that?
You wanted to know about lines, professional services on 182, right?
Yeah, but it basically rolls up all the ones below it.
Yes.
So there's a $110,000 negative that's being pulled out, that's an error
Oh, that's-
that
okay,
throws
okay.
that number
Just making
completely
sure we
off. So
answered your question.
It actually goes up to like 572, so
Perfect.
it's a little bit closer, right? Thank you. Other one is same page, 730,338, which is computer research services. Just wondering what that is. What do we use computer research services for? Since it's going from $11,000 to $23,000. It's more than doubling, and we've never spent that in the previous years.
I did not flag that one. Can anybody?
So computer research services, this is again, primarily to support the performance management area. They are utilizing this fantastic new program called Invisio. Part of that is going to be paid for out of this line item. And then, of course, it's also incorporated into IT's budget for the kind of remainder of those expenses. So that's why you're seeing this within.
So isn't that more of a software?
It is, but the way that it's billed, because this is a new program that they're making use of, the departments pay for the initial first year, and then it's rolled into IT's budget for the ongoing expenses. And then
Okay, so that's going to drive another question for me.
Yep.
Based on what you just described. To me, that's a capital investment into a product, right? Because all software is still capital expenditures when you buy it brand new, and then maintenance rolls into IT. That's how I'm used to seeing it.
They've changed some of the accounting around software and subscription software, so there could be changes to that.
Okay. I just want to make sure we're consistent between department to department and how we're doing that. That's my big question, because it seems different than the other departments. All right, next question, same page.
Okay.
Near the bottom, 750511, special event supplies. We're going, in the previous years, we're under 20 grand, and we go up to over 60 grand over the next couple of years.
Yep, hang on.
What are these special event supplies?
I can speak to that.
That's the events that we're doing around DEI. I think Harry would.
Yes, I can speak to that. I don't know if
Oh, there's just the bottom.
But here.
All right, here we go. So we did not do our first Juneteenth celebration until this was our third annual. So up until that point, we did not have outward-facing events that required us to buy souvenir things and swag bags, so to speak, and things of that nature. So going from having 0 events to now having Juneteenth, Pride Month celebrations, as well as this year we had the ADA celebration that was scheduled, as well as there are some other events that are scheduled, and also with some of our ERG events. Anything that's outward facing or public facing, or actually even inward facing, but categorized as an event, there'll be expenses from that. So as we increase the number of events, those numbers would naturally increase as well.
Okay, that makes sense, but if I look at the DI budget, that's only $16,000, and the overall run-up's at 66, so there's another 50K somewhere.
I think that's Office of Sustainability.
Maybe.
Because we have an annual event running for the CBTs.
You are correct, right at 50K, which I did have another question on. So what events would that be for? I'm jumping all over now,
That
but
is for our forward movement in. Thank you.
It didn't turn. Is it on? You guys are eating my 10 minutes. Try that.
Okay, great. So it will include mostly CVT events. In November of this year, we'll be doing our 3rd annual CVT community conversations about sustainability. And so we, in our strategic plan, have multiple CVT engagement events that we want to plan. So we wanted to be sure to have enough funding to support all of those. And then we also put on the Employee Earth Day event each year.
you guys do?
We do, yeah. We do that in partnership with HR.
Okay, what I would expect that to be at HR, that's why I asked.
Yeah, HR does the Bring Your Child to Work Day, and we do the Earth Day event. So those are the 2 big pieces, and then we are thinking about how else to do external outreach. And that may be with businesses, in partnership with economic development. It may be straight to residents, and it may be at CVTs, their own events where we go and table and bring things for that event. Does that help? Okay.
Yep, thank you.
Okay, great.
Just keep it on.
My next question's on page 183. I'm sorry to see the IT people left, but Infotech operations goes from 670K to 1.12 million in 26. Line item 774636.
I'm happy to. Yeah.
I can find out specifically what that is, but I think a lot of that is the departments moving around. So as you guys approved in finance today, the quarterly report of the developmental IT, this is where that line item is. Like development and operations. So if there were new software asks or things like that, it would be in this operations line item. And again, as we talked about yesterday, they're budgeted in non-departmental, and then as the departments use the time or the software, whatever, then it gets moved out of non-departmental and into those departments.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. And I think I'm done for now. Thank you.
Welcome.
Commissioner Long.
Okay, sorry, microphone close. On page 182, and this is probably maybe a Cheryl question. So the first line item, the indirect costs. So in 2023, we had 55,000, and now there's nothing for the county exec budget. So how do they not have any indirect cost?
That's a solid question. I'll have to get back with you on that one and look at how that got allocated in that budget.
Okay, because there was nothing from 23, it looks like they spent 55,000, and then there's this line, so I would like to know, like, why is it zeroed out, I guess, my question is, or they don't have indirect cost? Thank you.
Well, I think some of those, Commissioner, we've kind of broken out DPC, we've broken out some of those departments that would be using those internal facing items. And so I believe that those indirect costs have probably gone with those different departments, but I'll double check and let you know for sure.
That's what I was thinking, because that's what we were trying to do, I think, as a whole, is put the indirect cost with the people that are actually using it, charging them for it.
Right,
So
and
I guess what I'd like to know is, are those charged to different departments that they're zeroed out on county exec?
Yeah, and
Thank you.
that's probably what's going on, because as April talked about, we had them all in county exec, and now we're trying to break them out, and I'll double check on that.
Okay, thank you.
Of course, I have another question. I asked it yesterday, but I'm not sure anybody could formally answer it, but since the Office of Sustainability is here, I'll ask it one more time. Was it last year, maybe year before that, we approved the transfer of our electricity to a solar, I'm gonna call it a solar farm for this thing, over a certain duration of time. I just don't recall when that started and when it ends, because I know in some of the building run-ups, the electricity is included in that, is transferred across the whole county, and if I'm correct, we were saving roughly $12 million over that time frame on electricity because we did this agreement. So I'm just wondering when it started and when I can expect to see a reduction in budget numbers.
Okay, so I'll give a quick basic overview, and then it may be a question for more details when facilities comes in front of you, okay? So my understanding is that we actually have two different programs. One is the third party, and that allows us to buy electricity from a company that's not DTE. And in that purchase, there are savings, okay? And then the second program is the 75% of our electrical consumption being offset by solar power. That starts June 1, 2026 and runs for 10 years. That's our contract, okay? And that is in, I don't know the numbers exactly, but the setup, the way that I understand it, is even with doing the solar offsets, that we are paying less with this contract than we would be going with DTE straight up. So I think Jill Diliberti in facilities can really help with that one.
All right, I'll ask them when they come in front of us too. 'Cause
All right.
I think it's an important program and that we should be able to start seeing that in our budget numbers.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Thank you for that question.
If there are, Commissioner Powell, do you have any questions? No. Okay. If there are no other questions, thank you for coming in today. Appreciate all the work. You know, these sessions boil down to 30-ish minutes for your whole department. I just want to remind everybody, this represents a lot of work in a lot of departments. I mean, I'm sure it's hundreds over the whole budget hearing process and all the different departments and stuff. So for all those of you who aren't here, but you did some of the work to make this happen, I mean, we all appreciate that, and that's why we're here, so thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll take a couple-minute break while they reset we're going to get started. We're going to get started with our last budget hearing for the day. The sheriff's office and everything that goes with it. So I will turn it over to Sheriff Bouchard. Welcome.
Thank you. I kind of feel odd. I'm got my back to somebody no matter which way I'm going. And police work makes me very uncomfortable.
Make sure you speak close to the microphone.
Even when I go to a restaurant, my wife knows where to sit. I got to have my back so I can see the door. So now I got my back, no matter what, I got my back to somebody. So.
But we're nice. We're good back.
That's all right. I got snipers in the rafters, so we're all set. So thank you, as always, for having us. We appreciate the opportunity to chat about our budget and ask for you to triple it from what's in for you. Wow, that was a fast laugh. So I don't know that I need to go through all the slides because I presume you all have seen it and you know what's in there. So obviously we appreciate the support on a lot of the issues that we've been facing. Just kind of an overview. Excuse me, if you look at our budget, about 77% of it is personnel. Obviously, the largest portion of almost any budget is people. And, you know, with all of the things that come with that, and about 15% is county services. That would be like our motor pool, our cars, computers, phones, radios, IT, all of that kind of stuff. So basically, it leaves 8%. Which the majority of that 8%, 5% is contracted services in the jail. So now you're down to 3%, and that is focused on primarily equipment, tasers, maintenance, rent for facilities, training, uniforms, bedding, et cetera. So it gets chewed up pretty quickly, especially when you're starting with only 8% after you deal with your kind of fixed cost, your personnel and your equipmental stuff that comes right off the top. You know, I can throw it open for questions. I know we're the last of the day, probably keeping you from coffee and maybe a cool drink at home, but you know, if you look at the personnel stuff, I think really the only thing that is before you in terms of a new position for us is the human trafficking sergeant. We have been kind of stealing people to fill that spot temporarily from other assigned duties, which means obviously they don't have some of the same things that are getting covered in their regular positions through special investigations. So obviously we've been covering that and we're going to cover it through October, but at that point, you know, we're hopeful that that becomes a funded position. One thing on your radar, our crisis response unit, I think you had a presentation on that. That grant goes away October 1st. So that's 3 positions that, you know, we think the crisis response unit actually is a national model, but the grant ends and so does that effort. There's also an MDOC staffing study analysis that looked at our county jail and determined staffing needs, and they said an additional 33 deputies should be hired. So just wanted to put that on your radar because now that they've done that staffing study, we're going to be in non-compliance with the annual inspection until that staffing that they recommended is met. So that's kind of a big sticker shock to everybody, but that's just, I wanted to put it on your radar. And the other thing the Corp Council talked about was we have so many FOIA requests coming in, especially because of body-worn cameras, that we're not keeping up. Because when you get a request for a body-worn camera, we have to go through literally every second of it to determine what by law we're not allowed to release. So if there's something HIPAA related in there or some very personal private information in there, that has to be redacted. So when we get a request, somebody's got to sit down and an 8-hour video, they got to watch 8 hours. So we're not keeping up with the FOIA requests. Unfortunately, the legislature didn't adopt the language that I had suggested, which makes this a very personnel-intensive effort to deal with FOIA requests on BWCs. So Corp Counsel recommended we have another position there, at least, to try to keep up with that flow. So I wanted to kind of put that on your radar as well. But generally, we're just plugging along with what we have, and we'll be happy to take any questions. Did I miss anything on the high level?
Okay. I will open the floor to the commissioners, starting with Commissioner Taylor.
Thank you. Thank you for being here today. I do have a few questions, but the first one I want to ask is about your grant funding. You didn't mention, is it all federal or is it state? And then the employees that's impacted by that, are you planning, depending on how that's going to work out, is this budget going to cover maybe keeping some of those, especially since the report you just got where you need additional 33 people?
No, so this budget doesn't anticipate those 33 positions, and it doesn't anticipate those 3 positions if they're not funded elsewhere. This is just what we currently have. The 33 we don't have, so that's not in this budget, and the 3 grant positions were grant. When that goes away, we won't have funding for that either.
And do you have any plans, like, are you going to ask?
Well, you guys are the planners, so if you want to fund that, that's up to you.
Okay, so you would make a request at that time, is what you're saying?
Well, if you want the CRU to continue after October 1st, yeah, that would have to be funded.
Okay, so all of these grants, these employees that's mentioned here, the 39, are all CRU?
The 33 that's in the jail. That is recommended by MDOC, the Michigan Department of Corrections.
Okay.
So they did an inspection and said, we think.
Okay, we had 2 different things going on, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so 39
Oh.
is our total
Yes.
of all of our grant funded positions. Just these 3 are under jeopardy right now that are gonna end in October, that we don't have continued funding for. We do have combined state and federal.
Okay.
And then, the rest of them right now are funded. There's some questionable ones, because we have a couple that are in the community corrections grant, which I think maybe Barb Hankey and or Eric might have mentioned.
Yes.
So those, we're still waiting to find out if those will be continued. So there's a couple of them that we're waiting to hear. The COSUP grant for the CRU is the one that's the most critical right now, that if we don't get funding, because there has not been a solicitation released from the federal government, so we haven't seen anything, and those would be in jeopardy. Those people would not lose their.
I'm gonna stop. Yeah, you know you gotta
Nope.
get. And then, Lenny, I was just gonna let you know, if you could just let him know why we're asking this grant, because I don't know if Sheriff's aware that we've been trying to monitor the federal cuts and be prepared to know in each department.
Okay.
You gotta just hold it down.
There it goes.
Yes. There you go.
Okay. So we have a combination of state and federal funding. The COSUP positions that Sheriff mentioned, the sergeant and 2 deputies, those are at risk to be cut as of October 1st. The people will not lose their jobs. We will find somewhere else in the sheriff's office. Fortunately or unfortunately, we still have a lot of vacancies that we're always trying to fill. So we have spots for them to go. But unfortunately, the work of the crisis response unit would cease to exist. As we know it today with those positions. We do have another grant. It's a PACT grant that does similar kind of peer support and crisis support, but not to the level that the crisis response unit does. So they work in partnership, but it wouldn't replace what they're doing right now.
Okay. And I was happy to hear you mention about human trafficking. And so is that covered in this budget, human traffic, that first position? So how do you plan on going forward with that position after October 1st?
If it's not in our budget, it's not gonna continue. So if it was on the discussion for you guys to fund that, and then it was taken off temporarily or whatever event. So if that is to continue, it has to be funded as of October 1st. Human trafficking, it's a full-time sergeant and a car.
Vehicle. It was in that resolution.
It was in the resolution.
It was something like 250,000.
Okay, so basically, that's a request we need to talk about. 'Cause he's saying that that's the one that's on the cutoff, and that's your baby, so we gotta figure that out.
It was the combined resolution with the prosecutor's office. And then the sheriff's office portion was tabled and the prosecutor's office moved forward. That's the one we're talking about. So that's,
So we still in discussion.
yeah, so it's in limbo right now until there's action, board
Got
action.
Because we were gonna, well, it's in discussion. So
Yeah, it's in discussion.
we'll
It's
still
on our
talk-
list.
Yeah, we'll still talk about that one. I had some other questions, but I'm gonna, I had some questions about, have you, I think you do it for the whole county, I'm not sure, identify key positions and stuff where people have to be here, and by us having aging and people retiring and going out of, going home and, I guess, exercising that retirement, right? Do we have any succession planning in place? Or are you doing anything for succession planning?
Yeah, I mean, we always do succession planning. We talk to our people and say, if you were to retire today, or who would you suggest? And, we do that periodically. Sometimes it's a surprise, but then we have to kind of pivot and figure it out. Like when Under Sheriff Childs suddenly retired because he had some things going on he needed to deal with. So the great thing is we've got a deep talent well, and the biggest challenge isn't so much having great people, it's trying to pick between a lot of great people. So yes, we do think about it, talk about it, but sometimes you get a curveball even on that of now figure it out.
I was asking from like a budget standpoint. So I know that you train people, like for Gaia, if somebody wanted to, are you going to train somebody for her position? Do you have in your budget, like whatever?
She can never
leave. Training that person might need.
That's kind of the problem.
Yeah, well, I mean, we again, if we foresee, if there's an anticipated retirement, yes, we have a process where, especially if it's a technical thing, like if you have somebody who is in computer crimes and it takes a while to bring somebody up to speed and they have training they have to get, we try to have them work with the person that's currently in that position and try to get as much training in place before that person segues out so that you have that. If, again, sometimes things happen and boom, out they go for a different reason, personal, health, whatever, then you have to figure it out on the fly. But generally, especially positions that require significant training or a transition period, we try to have handoffs.
Is it anything that you?
Yeah, polygraph examination is one of the ones, and so our person retired and that person is helping train the next person to be, certified and capable to continue.
Okay. Is there any other ask for your budget that we have not, or you haven't considered that's currently in this budget now?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of things that we would love to have, but very, very much so. But we're chatting, obviously, with the commission chair and with the executive. There's some significant needs. Buildings, for example, our storage facility is woefully inadequate, and the lease comes up next summer, and we're out. So that clock is ticking very fast. We've given a number of suggestions and possibilities and alternatives to the chair and to the executive, and we're hopeful that we can do something. I hope it can be done next to our building because we got security issues off campus. The one site was broken into for the 4th time this week. We do have facility needs that we're trying to find an alternative that we can do without an expenditure from the county. That, it was my idea of how do we get this built quickly and figure out a way that the county doesn't necessarily have to front all that money. If they want to front it, again, that's your decision in the executive's office. We're just trying to constantly stay in communication with the chair and with the executive on what our space needs, what our equipment needs are, what our personnel needs are, and then you obviously get to decide the funding of that or not.
Okay, and then I'm gonna, the last question for right now, but I did hear you talk about the crisis response unit, and I know that we have full wraparound services now with human trafficking and the human trafficking team, regional team, and that kind of thing. I'm very interested in that, and I was trying to ensure that we could continue using the sheriff's department as like our area. We have all the local bringing people
We-
on and working with you. So could you talk a little
Yeah,
bit
so
about
we've built a great team, but we run very lean. And so, like, for example, if you compare us to other agencies, sometimes they have a 4-to-1, a 6-to-1 supervisor. Some, for us, other agencies might have 1.5-to-1 or 2-to-1. They've got way more command officers and other kinds of staff. We don't have free positions that are just kind of, oh, well, let's just pull this person and have them do that. If we pull a person, they're coming from a task. So the good news is that saves the county a lot of money compared to other agencies. The bad news is that's, they're already pretty stretched. So anytime we venture into like a new task force that's going to be full-time, we have to have a funding for it. Because the person that we have pulled that has been working on it for now came from other duties, which means those other duties don't have the same attention. And that becomes a problem, especially when it's special investigations that handles so many things.
And the school resource officers, are they all, I know that you have a number of them already. Are you planning to add any more? And I know the dogs are a part of that.
Well, no, the dogs aren't specifically attached. Some SROs have dogs, some do, a lot do not. So usually the dogs are, like with the next request is from Pontiac Schools, they would like one. So we've already got a donor to pay for the dog and start that process. But some of the dogs have nothing to do with SROs, like ones in peer-to-peer and things like that. The SROs typically are paid for either by the school or the school in conjunction with the community. Okay. It kind of depends on where they're placed. We don't come and ask for an SRO from the commission that the county at large would fund. We don't have any of those.
Okay.
Right. In fact, I think it was a year ago, we had a school district where we did a lot of work to get them what they wanted, and they ended up paying for it, but there was a lot of dialogue and discussion in between as to how that was going to work.
Okay. Well, thank you. I'm going to really let someone else ask some questions.
All right. Who's next? Commissioner Powell?
I was just going to let you know, Sheriff, that when that CRU unit came and spoke to us, some of the majority caucus members are interested in trying to figure that out. So it is on our list. I just want to tell you that.
And we did apply for additional HIDA funding for that same program. We haven't heard back on it yet, so there's a pending application. Yeah.
We may have to, upfront it, and then it may come back. So we're trying to work that out, but we don't want that unit.
Right. Yeah.
Clearly, we don't want the unit to stop, just so you know. So we're working to try to figure that out for you, sir.
And we were hoping that the grant funding would come through before October 1st, but
So then it'd
obviously
be
there's no
okay,
guarantees.
but
Yes, but
no,
we don't know that yet.
It's on our radar. You
Great.
know I'm on it. It's on our radar.
Yeah, and we're tracking the funding on the national level. We were told there was a real strong possibility that UASI money would be eliminated, which for us, it was a number of positions, it was training, things like that. I think the Senate was the one that put it back in, the U.S. Senate. So, we're trying to stay on top of what's happening with some of those grants, some of those different UASI or whether it's HIDA. HIDA's, constantly something that we look at because if we are very involved in the efforts from HIDA. We're involved in UASI. We're involved in, without going into them all, quite a few.
Yep, and also just to bring clarity to you. So about a couple months ago, Commissioner Taylor asked our financial team to keep track of every department and all the grant funding that we may get from federal that we don't know if it's going to get cut or not. So at this point, we're like watching things that goes on with because I think you were one of the top 3 departments that has a lot of federal funding. So that's just so you're on your radar, because we're trying to make sure that we don't have to make any dramatic changes within our budget. We want to take care of home first. So we're just constantly monitoring that, sir. So your team kind of know to keep us abreast of any federal cuts. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Commissioner Spiz. Mr. Robot.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to be clear, how many open positions do you guys have right now? Presentation, I think, said 97.
Our biggest is on the road at the moment. What is it? About 30.
30 on the road. All right. And then you have the 33 that you mentioned earlier on top of that number, right?
Oh, 30 on the road and 33 at the jail.
33 is additional.
33 in the jail is what MDOC said we should have, and so they're gonna mark us in non-compliance if we don't do that, but we're obviously functioning. That's not currently budgeted, so I wouldn't count those as 33 openings there. We're getting close to what we are budgeted for in corrections. I think with this last academy, we're getting close, but we also have quite a bit of retirements and turnover, so it's like that treadmill that keeps going up another notch just when you think, okay, I can do this, and then it goes, and you're like, oh man. That's kind of what these folks are dealing with every day. Yeah.
Okay. All right. My next question is, where in the budget are the CVT contracts? Which line item? Because there's a couple in here, but it could be in either one, so I'm just looking
The
to
revenue
clarify.
is under Sheriff's Special Deputies.
Okay, that's why I figured it was. That includes both, actually, in the roll-up, it's probably both.
So it's line item 632093, if you're looking at
Page 145.
126.
Yep, 126.
Commissioner Spiz, page 145.
Oh, but it's rolled up on page 126 in the same thing, right?
Or 126 is the first page of the
Yeah.
the budget, and then it's broken down by
Broke down,
division.
But, yeah, okay. Gotcha. I just wanted to see where it was so I can understand the number, because I expected it to go up, which it did. And then I have a general question on page 128, professional services. And it's 731,458.
Mm-hmm.
It just, for 26, it goes to 428,000, but then it drops back down to 328 for the next 2 years. And we haven't been that high yet, so that's where I'm kind of questioning what's driving that. Professor service, yeah. Goes to 428, 121. And it was at 360, and it was 328, 328, and we haven't hit 300 prior to that yet.
And which line was that? I'm sorry, on page what?
Page 128, professional services, 731,458. About halfway in the middle of the bottom section.
Under contractual services.
Okay, yeah, I have it here. I'm just trying to figure out, I have my other spreadsheet here for contracted services. I'm just trying to figure out what specific
I didn't go
one
through
that
all of
was.
them.
Let's see. I can look up that specifically. It might be the Haven contract that we run through the board that's pending right now. But that's only 70,000, so let me check. So because we have different things split up between contracted services and professional services, so I have a breakdown of contracted services. I don't have a breakdown of professional services, so
Okay.
I can get
Yeah, just let me know.
that changed for you. Okay.
What I normally do, it was different than everything else, so I usually flag it.
Yep,
On
I
what's
will
driving
follow-
different,
yep.
especially 1 year.
I will follow up on that and let you know.
I have a similar question on page 129 for deputy supplies, 750070. We're budgeting amendment this year of 1.9 million. We dropped to 900,000 for 26, then we go back up to 1.6 in 27 and 28. Just why the drop?
I had the same question, so we discussed it, or we've already discussed that with fiscal services, and they were looking into that one, so I was aware of that one.
And of course, I have a general question on Marine Patrol, which I think is a common question. I don't think we have anything budgeted in out years for Marine Patrol, and I know we rely on a grant every year from Marine Patrol, if I'm not mistaken. So whatever grants we get, that's what we use, if that's correct.
I couldn't hear you.
I'm sorry, on Marine Patrol. In the budget, for the out years, it's zero. It's blanked out.
What page?
So now you're asking that. I have it. Just gotta get to it.
Oh, 126, so,
No, it's on 145, page 145.
okay.
Patrol Services, Marine Patrol, Marine Safety, 626, 619.
Yeah, I think that one, I think that's updated. We bring that to the board when we do the acceptance, and that's when the budget amendment is done.
Okay, so that one's gotta be updated yet. And just another general question, more, it's on page 133, on 133 for revenue, charges and services. Going from this year out, it's very minimal, 3,500, which included fee income, fingerprints, miscellaneous revenue, et cetera. Is that normal? Is that what we expect based on the trends in the?
What's your line item?
Well, it's actually the top of 133 for the revenue, under charges and services, if you look at that whole section.
That
Out to the right.
$3,500, I think that's always been the amount in that, and we didn't get that shored up like we did some of the other revenue accounts.
I'm actually looking at the whole section though, because if you look at each line item, there's zero except for the 3,500. In the previous years, we've had some type of actual come in for those,
So
from the revenue.
that actually moved, that was in our records division, and that moved from this division to a different division. So actually, if you look and it should be under 4030801, which is technology, innovation, and information. It should be under there. So on page 151, if you look, those budgets should be in that section.
Got it, thank you. Right, that's all my questions for now.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? I want to mention that we've been talking with the sheriff's office and the board chair about special events, things like the state fair, the dream cruise, and so on. And I think it's everybody's opinion that we need to have a bucket of money for that we know that's what it's set aside for, and that it's available, and that we're sure we're going to be able to cover to the extent that we want to. So I think what we'll see is a budget amendment here in the not too distant future to take care of that. So I know the undersheriff's been talking with Commissioner Woodward, and he and I have talked, and we're going to get there. So I think that's really important. I have a constituent that, brought the issue to me, but it's a countywide issue, so.
Yes, yeah, we appreciate that. We know that we're getting a lot more requests from communities all across the county when they have an event. Sometimes it's fireworks, sometimes it's a state fair, sometimes Art Beats and Eats, Dream Cruise, whatever. And literally the impact when we cover those are hundreds of thousands of dollars because we have to cover them on overtime. And the requests are going up dramatically because what's going on around the world. Obviously, today there was one plot interrupted to shoot up an airport, and there was a mass shooting at a military base. So every day something's going on, and people locally go, oh my gosh, we've got this event come up. We need more bodies and help. And, we try to help whenever we can, but obviously at some point people are going to go, why is your overtime budget exploding? Because, we have to pull people on overtime to cover those events, and when they're 2 and 3 and 4 day events, all of a sudden that adds up very quickly, a time and a half.
Right. So I think that discussion is important, needs to be had, and we're going to do it going forward. So I just wanted to put that on the record.
Thank you.
And I have one more, I have an answer for Commissioner Spence on professional services. So that $100,000 was the contract that we had for polygraph services that the sheriff mentioned, because we had a contract to help train the new person and get him certified. So we only needed that for a short term, and then we don't need it going forward. So that's why it's not in the future budget.
Okay, thank you. I do have an additional question now, though. One additional.
Oh, sure.
Page 153, the drug test revenue.
Yes.
It's at 500K across the board. other than previous years, we've never hit that number, so is that a
Whoops, which page?
153?
Okay. And what was your question?
It's just, we've never hit 500,000 in the previous years, at least the ones that are shown here. And we
Well-
only have 138K to date, so are we over expecting that revenue when we're actually never gonna hit it?
Well, at one point in time, it used to be like 1.2 million, 1.3 million, and so it's gone down. Post-pandemic, it's been a real struggle to get that, kind of get that back up. There's a lot more competition out in the field, so we're looking at that. We're kind of marketing that and trying to figure out where that goes. But we are absolutely looking at this and hoping that we can make the $500,000 target, but it has been reduced over the years, so
So
we are
you're
not.
keeping an eye on it, and
Oh, yeah.
hopefully it stays there or goes up, but
Absolutely,
if you have
yes.
to adjust down, we'll adjust down.
Yes, and that's what that 500,000 is, actually a downward adjustment from what we used to have years and years ago.
Thank you.
Is that it, Commissioner?
That's it, I'm done, thank you.
Commissioner Taylor.
Thank you. I just wanted to mention, when we did the Board of Commissioners earlier, we had talked about emergency response, not emergency response, but active shooter training and that kind of thing, and they told us to remind you, or this, ask the sheriff's office, because that comes from you. Are you looking, or will you be able to do something like that for the commissioners? Because
Sure.
we have new ones that have not had that training here.
Yeah, we can do that anytime you want. That's easy. When you want to do that, we'll figure it out.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
I'm assuming that you're involved in the discussions with facilities about what the new facility is going to look like and the safety aspects of it in terms of the commission and the way we're going to operate while we're downtown. For example, you said you don't like having your back to us. None of us like the way this is set up in here. I don't like sitting in the back row with my back to the crowd.
Right.
That's why I moved to the front row. I didn't feel safe after some of the stuff that happened a couple of years back. So that question, of how to design the room.
Yeah, we
that
have
we're gonna
experts on
function-
that. If you, just include us, it's always way cheaper to include us before things are done than after. We preached that to a lot of school districts, and some listened and some didn't. And then retrofitting is very expensive, but building it into the build out sometimes is almost little or no cost. So yeah, please feel free to consult us. We've got folks on staff that understand security parameters, understand the difference between cover and concealment, meaning cover protects you from threats, concealment just hides you, but it won't stop a bullet. So we've got a lot of folks that understand that. And when you're talking about building certain spaces that may be threatened or may have challenges, how would you best do that?
So I think we should have our chief of staff work with the facilities folks and somebody from your office to make sure that that discussion is very robust, and by the time we start putting a shovel in the ground, we know what we're going to do there. And it'll be a safer setup than what we have today. This is a great building, and it's been here for quite a long time, but you wouldn't build it the same this year as they built it 40 years ago.
No, 100%. And we try to stay ahead of, you don't want to be in our head, because we're constantly thinking, what's the worst thing can happen and how do we prepare for it? And a lot of it's never happened. So you try to imagine. So imagine what's running through our head. So when we did the retrofit of our current headquarters and we built up the berms and we made vehicle barriers, a lot of people were like, why are you doing that? Well, now, obviously, it's happening to all the county buildings, and you see what's happened around the world. So we try to anticipate those things as you start to do build-outs and you start to think about potential and future threats.
I like the enormous pots of flowers as opposed to, some big structure. At least we're trying to integrate the,
Yeah. And you gotta, we can constantly kind of look and talk too, because sometimes it's easier for people to move those big, enormous flowers out of the way because they want to pull some lawn mowing equipment in there, and it kind of defeats the purpose, right? So we're constantly reminding folks why they're there. We all like to live in this kind of, it'll never happen here, but unfortunately that's not the world we live in.
For sure.
And the one very last thing was, I had mentioned earlier too, and they told me to talk to the sheriff's department about when I was in Philadelphia, we had a 911 outage. They said the sheriff has something in place in case something like that should happen, we would still function.
Yeah, we have redundancy, so like when your community, for example, if it goes down, then I think they fall back, Southfield fall back on us, right?
On you, on the county.
Yeah, so all of us, if something happens, have a fallback.
Okay.
So if we go down, someone else has that slack temporarily.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
I think Commissioner Smith-Charles has questions.
Thank you, Chair. Hello, Sheriff. Good to see you as always. Two things. Would you mind introducing who's with you today, just for the people who are possibly watching on YouTube? And then, because we know them well, but maybe others don't. The other question I have, and I was not sure if I wanted to ask it, but I'll go ahead. It is a budget hearing. What's the relationship, this could be a Cheryl, could be a Gaia question, I'm not sure, with parks? Both Commissioner Long and I serve on parks, and I do feel like oftentimes when we're looking at the parks budget, the sheriff's office does come up, and I'm just curious, is it symbiotic, or should parks have rangers? I think that came up in conversations before, have their own parks rangers kind of thing. Can you just speak to that in terms of your budget? Is parks using resources from your budget? Are they paying you from their budget? If you could highlight that.
Yeah, so we patrol the parks under a contract, which is kind of a work in progress. And we have for many, many years. Obviously, there's a big difference between having law enforcement and not, and what they can do and not. So, if you remember the discussion where one school had a part-time deputy and they were talking about a full-time deputy, and then they ended up going to private security. Anytime anything happens in that school now, which is in Pontiac, they end up calling Pontiac substation's got to dispatch a car there. So it takes the Pontiac car off the street that was primarily being paid for by the school. And so if you don't have full-time police officers, us, in the parks, anytime they run across anything that's law enforcement, they have to call us. And we don't have general patrol deputies. So there's not somebody just floating around waiting for a call. All of our deputies on the road are paid for with a specific task, either contracted communities or secondary road and things like that. Some counties have general patrol deputies. We have none.
Okay.
So that's why we need a contract with the parks to have bodies to cover the parks. And that's what we've done symbiotically for a long time. In fact, they have some property that we're in discussion with them about maybe having some co-use of that property, because we're still looking at how do we, in addition to the storage facility and a dispatch, we still need a training facility, and we still need a range, and we still need a driving track, because all of the things, we need every day. So we're having some discussions with the parks about, well, what could we do together potentially that the public could have some access to some part of the property and we could have. So, yes, to your long answer to your question, we work well with the parks and have for many, many years.
Great, thank you. And then again, just for the listening audience, could you introduce who's here with you today?
The what?
Could you introduce who's here with you today?
Gaia is my budget knowledgeable CFO, lives numbers. She is an amazing person. And Under Sheriff Willis is what many would think in some states, the chief deputy, and then Major Yiser is over law enforcement services.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Thank you, Chair.
I'm equally as wonderful, by the way. He just forgot that part.
Well, we'll see. Now, everybody, we got an amazing team. As I said earlier, we've got an abundance of talent, and we're blessed. So, we have great people that work above and beyond. And they, 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, we're all getting, texts and search and rescue and call outs. And it's a very busy time, but there's no let up. And they all rise to the occasion. I'm proud of them. And that goes from, the top to the front lines, whether it's in the jail or on the road or in dispatch or wherever it is. Our people are committed, seasoned, dedicated professionals.
Okay, any other questions from the commission?
No.
All right, well, thank you very much for coming in today and preparing for this process. Gaia, I know you did a large part of the work of getting these numbers all together, so appreciate it.
Working with fiscal, of course.
Yes.
Our partners.
Yes, and thank you to Fiscal for all the support. They've been here every single minute of these hearings so far, and we have a long way to go till we're done, but we are thankful that so far they've gone well, and we appreciate the sheriff and his staff coming in and telling us how things are and what your issues are that you're still trying to resolve. So that 33 people in the jail is kind of a big number.
Yeah, that was surprising to everybody when they handed us that report.
Yeah. So, okay.
But that also tells you how lean we run. And,
True.
we've got a lot of people that are doing a lot of very important work with limited hands.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just another example of how we've been able to do things when somebody else from the outside looks at it and goes, how are you doing this? You need 33 more. And they could say that in our computer crimes unit, they could say that in dispatch, they could say that at the courts. Pretty much we stretch ourselves very thin.
And I know you alluded to the fact you just did a new cohort of trainees, right? So you're always trying to do that, recruiting and...
We're running 2 academies at the same time, like concurrently, so.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, we're improving a great deal, we're improving a great deal in our, I hope we're on the backside of this, having difficulties hiring, That was a long time challenge. I think we're on the backside of that now, I hope so.
Good to know. Okay, well, with that, do I have to have a public comment? Yes, I do. Okay, with that, we are done with the sheriff's office. Thank you. And we have our last public comment. If there's anybody in the crowd who wishes to address the committee at this time, please approach the microphone. You get 3 minutes. I don't see anybody, so I will close our public comment. Is there any other business to come before this committee today? If not, see you back here at 1 o'clock tomorrow, and this meeting is adjourned.